Welcome. I'm Steve,
I'm Kevin.
and this is Nerds Talk. Today we're going to talk about the Mandela Effect, but um, but there was a couple of updates, wasn't there, about the Miami incident and the large creature.
Yeah, I think in the last podcast, I thought got mixed up. I said it was in Florida, but the full story is now it was in Miami, Bayside Mall.
It's in
And
Florida, though.
obviously,
Isn't that in Florida?
Miami,
Yeah, is Miami not
is
in
it?
Florida?
Oh, we're going to sound really stupid now. It's in America.
America's massive. We don't know. We just live in a
I
little
thought
country.
Miami was a state in itself, isn't it?
I thought Miami was in Florida. Oh, you
Oh, I don't know.
you guys correct us on this one, because
Quickly Google it and edit this out because I'm going to look so stupid with my geography.
hold on. Right, Miami, Florida, USA. Yeah, it's in Florida.
Oh my God.
I thought
Oh
so. It was
right.
the coast.
So I was right the first time. It was Florida, but it was at okay, I should have said more specifically it was in Miami in Florida. Anywho. So yeah. Um so obviously there was this massive apparently there was like 80 police vehicles have responded to it. You can see the footage all over X. Um
Twitter.
and it's just X. But it's like just you've never seen such a mass response of police officers. And I believe they were told all units to respond. Um, so obviously you're thinking, oh my God, that's something that's massive. And then you're thinking, oh well, there's nothing's really come out. And then they release breaking news type thing saying police just responded to some kids that were fighting with sticks and setting off some fireworks.
Hmm.
But that's a bit of a large response. And obviously, there's no actual footage of anything that went on there. No kids uploaded anything to social media, nothing. And then people have started coming out saying that what was going on is they were responding to these 6, 7 foot high alien creatures that suddenly appeared in the mall. And they were just sort of just watching, standing there watching, not worried or anything. And people were like panicking and legging it away from them. And subsequently, since then, various people have come out saying that they were there, and they're saying that basically one person was saying it was really freaky. There was a fight that was started with some teenagers started to have a fight, but then everyone suddenly these alien creature things started to appear, and everyone's like running from that. So it sort of gives me the impression that there's like the police. Oh yeah, we did respond to like a kids fight, but that one might have been the initial one, but then it's escalated with these aliens appearing.
Hmm.
Now, there's the argument of like, well, if it was a kids fighting or it was a really bad fight, where's the footage of that then? And the same argument you'd say, well, if there were aliens appearing, where's the footage of that?
Yeah.
Someone else was saying that they were being stopped as they were going out of the mall, asking to check their phones and that. But I'm dubious about that because if I take a picture on my phone, it goes to the cloud instantly and I can recover it, even
Yeah.
if you delete it off my phone. So I'm not even sure about that. And I know that one bloke, he said that he was there and these aliens appeared and all of that malarkey. And he then come out a few days later and he said, I made that whole story up
Well,
just to let you know I wasn't even there. But then some people are saying, oh, the guy's been lent on and told to like the men in black have basically got at him.
yeah.
But either way, it's still a weird sort of thing that's going on because that is a big response to
Yeah.
kids fighting. I mean, even if it was an active shooter, would you get 80 cop cars descending on them like that? I don't know.
Well, there was that interview with the police chief or whatever he is, and he did say that that is the point of having a huge response. The fact that if there's quite a large disturbance, they'll send a ton of cops, and because they arrive on mass, then everyone just legs it, and that's it. Trouble finished, sorted, done and dusted.
Mm.
But which that makes sense as well. If you've got the resources to do that, then great. Wouldn't happen in London, but
But then, like, you have the shootings at schools in America all the time, unfortunately, and I'm pretty sure you get that sort of response turning up at a school with like 80
I
coppers.
don't know. You don't you
Like,
don't you don't see it when when they talk about it in the news. They don't show you. oh, there's been a school shooting, and then like 80 cop cars there. They don't show any of that, but I don't know. They're maybe a little bit more sensitive about reporting. I don't know what's going on in this one. I still want to know where the initial report of these massive creatures even came from. Like, 'cause
Yeah, see, I'm not clear on that one either. But the other bits that they said that so they cut off access to police scanners, so they shut that down. Now,
hmm,
I thought using a police scanner was a bit naughty anyway, and if they can shut that down, why don't they always shut it down? But maybe
yeah,
they're allowed access to police radio. I don't know.
hmm,
But also, they apparently downed flights, or no flights were allowed
what?
out of the area of the airport there, and there was only one black helicopter that was flying around. So it sounds like they cut access to the police scanners,
Hmm,
they grounded flights, and there was an 80 police car response to a mall with kids fighting with sticks.
hmm.
And then we've had no kind of really anyone or interview, no one really coming being interviewed by any media that were actually definitely within the mall there.
Yeah,
That, oh, can you tell us what happened to such a big? Oh, yeah, yeah, it was crazy. These kids started fighting. Oh, okay. No interviews with anyone officially, just what people are putting up on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And and I think what they showed is some footage of some kids being arrested, and I think there was like a group of like five kids or something. I think they nicked some like five people
hmm,
sort of nearby. It's like, I mean, it could be, and they could have just like ramped it up over nothing, but it's just a bit odd the what's going on around it.
yeah, hmm. It it's all just too weird for me. Like, you're right. There's too much information missing, even from the. I don't know. You would just expect it to be more information, wouldn't you? And yeah, why
Yeah, it,
why would the ground aircraft why would the block suddenly block all uh radio, like police scanners and stuff? Like, why? That's not.
well,
Is that a normal thing? That, like, you would think
but
that. I mean, that might be something that they do. Like if it's a planned operation or something, like New Year's Eve or something, and they know there's
yeah.
going to be something going on, so they might do all of that. But this is a call, what looks like a call to a fight, and then a billion cops show up, and then they do all this extra stuff on top of that. Why? Why?
But
It's
but
too
also
suspicious.
it it's a shopping mall, okay, and it's all kicking off there. And there's all these reports coming out of alien beings, and I've also seen some footage. It's probably fake, I don't know, but you see like these big figures walking around,
Uh-huh.
on the blurry, grainy footage on some of them. But why? So it's generating a lot of interest on social media. So go to some of the shops there and interview the staff that were working there, because that's probably more reliable than Josh that's filming in his basement
Josh.
a few days afterwards for his YouTube channel. Um, just go and talk to the staff there, security staff there, the mall would have security staff. The news would go down there, or newspapers, whatever, saying, "Oh, you were here when there was. Can you tell us exactly what happened?" There's no investigative journalism going on around it.
Well, isn't that a problem overall anyway?
Well, yeah, but for something that seems just like it is just an innocent fight going on there. And normally, you'd know, like, well, there was like a police response of 80 cars for what they thought was a massive terrorism threat, and turned out just to be a few kids fighting. We've got Bob, who works security in the mall here. Can you tell us exactly what happened? Well, yeah, sure, Sheila. I was just doing my rounds when these bunch of kids came out of nowhere. And what about these 6 foot tall alien creatures? I know nothing about that.
As
Right.
his eyes sort of blink
Yes, shifting
vertically.
to the side.
I've just come up with an idea though, Kev. What do you think of this? Right, this could be the a build up to a new film. Can you imagine? Right, they're going to bring about a new film, which,
A publicity stunt.
yeah, it's a bit like a new film, a bit like, what was that film with that everyone thought was, like, it wasn't really a horror, it wasn't really, it was a sci-fi, but it was very kind of a slow kind of sci-fi where aliens came down. And I'm sure, like,
Was it a TV
Former or
series?
someone was in it. Um, no, it was that one where they were watching the news and they're like, "My God, what's happening?" And the news showed this green sort of alien walk past a window or something, and everyone was like, "Oh my God!" But anyway,
What the hell's that film?
you'll know what I'm talking about. Phenomena or something. No, phenomenon was it? Or uh, uh,
Ba, 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 da, ba.
something like that. But yeah. So imagine you're going to bring a new film out a few months before, just leak a story like this, which is a bit weird, like related to an actual event, and you create a bit of buzz around an idea, and then maybe keep that going for a few months before
Oh my god!
it turns out that actually the movie makers have been creating these stories. Oh, that'd be
How
cool.
quickly can you write a novel? Get a novel out about a mall in America where the aliens start appearing.
Oh, it'd have to be a short story, wouldn't it?
Oh, depends how quick you can type, and then cash in on that publicity. Said, yeah, yeah, yeah. I arranged that as publicity.
Based on true events, and just like write a story. Yeah.
Right, and I'm not encouraging anybody to make hoax calls or anything, but wouldn't it be interesting if someone actually tested it out and said, "There, oh my God, there's 7 foot tall aliens walking around blue water." Don't do that. It's like a disclaimer out there.
Yeah.
It's a joke, and see if we get like, "Oh my God, the whole of the like Kent and Metropolitan police cars just like heading to the area." We'll have about 10 police cars.
And we go, oh my God, it's a massive response. Well, not really.
Yeah, there's 10 cars here and a couple of PCSOs. I don't think we've got the resources that they've
No,
got in Miami to send 80 police cars there.
no, exactly.
Probably
Yeah,
must be like manned by what, 2 police officers per car. So what's that? 160 bloody
yeah,
police officers.
yeah. All just armed up,
My God.
shotguns, everything.
Meanwhile, the guy who put the call in about like 6 foot aliens is breaking into jewelry stores on the other side of town.
Yeah, I mean, that's another possible theory, isn't it? But
Yeah.
which has nothing to do with aliens, like. But I like the movie idea. I think that's quite. I reckon, yeah, it'd be quite cool if they created hoaxes like this in the run up to a new movie coming out this summer. That would be quite cool.
Well, it's the new form of entertainment. They use the news to put these stories out. So you're like, oh my God, that's so interesting. They've
Yeah,
made it all up, but they're entertaining you.
exactly. Well, isn't that the news now anyway?
Yeah, well, yeah, all
Yeah,
made up. I
yeah,
think it's always been that way.
yeah, exactly.
Just
Well,
look at the film They Live.
they live. Oh, they live. Yes. Oh, he puts the glasses on. It's Rowdy Roddy Piper, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah,
Obey, consume, do not ask questions, stay asleep.
yeah. The only thing I would change about that movie, is the bit
Is
where
the
it
20
says,
minute long fight scene.
no, well, yeah, yeah, which is really fake and it could have been done much
Yeah,
better. It would have been much better if it was two wrestlers fighting, but because it's one wrestler fighting another guy, it's kind of a little bit. But
it's a little indulgent.
the only thing I would change about that film is one of it's when you're wearing the glasses and you can see obey and consume and all of that. There is something that it keeps cropping up, and it says something about not having kids or get married
Oh,
or
it says procreate, or so it says
yeah, yeah,
get married,
that's it. Yeah,
procreate.
procreate. And I was thinking, well, if we were to like fit that into like what's happening today, and the conspiracies around the same kind of deal, really, where you've got like this different group of people who perhaps hidden within society, but like but control everything, and everything is about consumption and all of that. But I think that's the one element that is different now, because it's about not um like they want you to not have kids and stuff. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. Um,
Yeah, which is that's interesting in itself because the birth rates are very low at the moment, aren't they? So
yeah, yeah.
it's kind of, even if they want you to procreate, we can't.
Well, we could. it's just oh god, it's all of that stuff we talked about before. It's linked to the way news is consumed. It's linked to having little computers in our hands constantly, and and playing games a lot more, and not actually um uh being able to physically mix. I know you've got like loads of dating websites and all that kind of stuff, but people are kind of generally, there's a lot of people who just keep themselves to themselves instead of actually sort of meeting people and having a, and
Mm.
in fact, well, a lot of people would say that it's to do with society, a very how do you it's like a narcissistic society where it's all about the self, it's all about you doing what you want to do and doing, no negotiation. It's just like you do what makes you happy, which is fine in itself, but at the expense of others is where it goes wrong. um oh my god,
Well,
this is a big subject to cover.
well, I will have to do another episode, but I was just thinking to myself, like, so birth rates are at historical lows
Hmm.
to the point that I think Germany are really worried about the lack of new births. Now, I'm just thinking, what have we been carrying around in our pockets over the last, what, 20 years?
Hmm.
Mobile phones? Could that be having an impact on this?
Could be, but you've also got to look at. I mean, it's slightly different over here in the UK, but I think we have better water. Um, In fact, a guy came around my house a few months ago. It's from the water company, and he just wanted to do some tests. So he just took some water from his sink and different things, right? And took the samples away. But he said that we don't put fluoride in our water. Or
No,
well,
we don't.
yeah. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, that is one thing I didn't know in the UK, because I just assumed that fluoride was put in all water. But then that is the issue with mixing up, because we're so close to America in terms of, we all speak English. The cultures are very similar, but also not very, but also very different at the same time. But that's another story, isn't it? But we watch American movies, we watch American TV shows where we feel almost like we're part of America, and then you've got the whole history, like the English, or the British, started to colonize America and all of that. So, but we thought that despite all of that, like even just with movies and stuff, we feel really close to America. So we like to think that America's issues are our issues too. Um, they're not. We've got
Well,
different issues. You know.
I mean, that's interesting about the fluoride thing. So I
Yeah.
was looking into that because I find it quite interesting. Obviously, the fluoride conspiracy, but fluoride was I'll have to do some more research on it again because I did it ages ago.
Yeah.
But basically, fluoride was a byproduct, like an accidental byproduct of something else,
Yeah.
and they've sort of gone, "How can we sell this? It's good for
Ah.
teeth."
Yes. Well, there
So
was
then
one.
it's, oh well, it's good for teeth. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
and they push it.
when I looked at it, it was there was literally like one piece of research. There might be more now, but there was literally one piece of research that said it might have a healthy impact on teeth, and
Yeah.
whether or not the government jumped on that because they were like, we need to improve oral health because that improves health overall. I'm thinking about this positively, Kev. They might have gone, well, there we go. We'll take that piece of research and we'll run with it. Start adding fluoride to the water systems, and we'll improve everybody's health overnight.
But the interesting thing is that I was reading about what fluoride's meant to do, and it's meant to make you docile and stuff. And others theory saying that
Yeah.
it calcifies the pineal glands, which is like the spiritual connections and things.
Yeah.
So it's a way of like just cutting you off from some kind of spiritual existence to make you kind of like they live, obey, consume, don't ask questions, stay asleep
Yeah.
if you want to go really down the rabbit hole. But it was interesting that when I go to the dentists and they ask for just a normal checkup, and they last time I went, they're like, "Oh, what toothpaste do you use? Colgate or whatever." Basically, I use whatever toothpaste is on sale in Asda's because they might say, oh, Max White, this works on your enamel, that works on your gum health. I'm like, it doesn't. It all is the same, but they're marketing it differently
Yeah.
and putting an extra premium on it to make you buy things like it's like always like targeted pain relief.
Yeah.
it can't be targeted pain relief. You can't say, yeah, I've got a headache, so this is just going to target my head. It's got to follow through your whole system. But
Yeah,
anyhow, I
exactly.
digress.
Yeah.
Um, and they're saying like, oh, when you brush your teeth, what we're recommending to people is like, don't rinse your mouth out with water. Like, I looked at the dentist and I said, you want me to brush my teeth with mint toothpaste or whatever and not rinse that out?
Gargle with it as
That's
well. Gargle with
yeah,
your
but that
toothpaste. See what happened to you there. Ugh!
you imagine everything will just taste of tooth. I'll have
Yeah,
like a foamy mouth still.
I
I'm
know.
like, well, that's not going to happen. But it's interesting that the medical journals will come out saying to dentists, well, that dentists are being told fluoride is good for the teeth. So of course they're going to push fluoride is good for the teeth as well, and the message gets passed on and on and on.
Yeah,
And then you actually need to start looking at these things.
yeah.
But well, this is far, far away from the Mandela effect subject we're going to talk
Exactly.
about.
No, I find that maybe we'll talk about that another time. Do some a bit of a deep dive into that. But yeah, the Mandela
Yeah.
effect. So let's try and do a bit of a deeper dive down the rabbit hole of Mandela effect. So maybe we just talk about some examples of
Deep dive. Well, we need to say what the Mandela effect is first. I know we've covered it before.
yeah. So the Mandela effect is basically like mass. Um, the reason it's called Mandela effect is because a lot of people thought Mandela had died in the early 90s or
The 90s,
the
yeah.
90s. So
That's Nelson Mandela.
Nelson Mandela, yeah, they thought that he died years ago, years before he did. And then when he actually died, everyone's like, I thought he was already dead. And
Yeah.
then, and then,
See, I didn't know. I knew he was always alive. See that I didn't get affected by that certain Mandela effect. But there we are.
so when he died, you were just like, oh yeah. And then when you,
Yeah, it's like,
so when people started going on and talking about the Mandela effect, were you like, what are you on about? Anyway, so people think that at some point we have two sort of different people have different memories of things because we kind of slip in and out of dimensions or we actually I mean one of the more recent theories is that we all died at a certain point anyway the whole world died and we're continuing on some other in some other parallel universe and and we have memories from the time when when the dead earth was alive which was slightly different from the time we're in now. I mean,
yeah.
it yeah, it's a little bit, you know. But anyway, the Mandela effect because of the weird memory that thousands and thousands of people have of Mandela dying in the 90s.
Yeah, so we're going to go through sort of the top Mandela effect memories. I've got a few personal ones that I've experienced,
Um,
and yeah,
well, um, let me see now. So the problem is for us in the UK, we don't. I don't think we can relate to a lot of the Mandela effects that are currently being talked about. Things like the Berenstein Bears or there's I
yeah.
don't know. There's some of the ones where us in the UK would just be like, "What? I don't even know what that is." So
Yeah, so I specifically looked at UK ones that we would remember, and
cool.
there's not as many as the US. So
Uh-huh. Well, shall I? Do you want to start then, or shall I
yeah,
start?
but interestingly enough, the first one that I'm going to give you, it actually might totally debunk the whole Mandela thing as being it just being confused memories.
Hmm.
Um, so you know the film Big with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
So I remember,
Oh, sorry, Kev.
I
I forgot to say Nelson Mandela actually died in 2013. So it was like way, way after everyone thought he died. So it's not just a case of like somebody dying 5 years after you thought he did or 10 years after he thought he did. It's literally like 20 odd years after everybody had already thought that Nelson Mandela had died. Anyway,
I mean, with that, I don't understand how they could have thought he died in the 90s because he was always appearing now and again on TV, and there was some new stuff around him.
well, yeah, something to do
Well,
with him when they thought he died in prison. Maybe it was something to do with him dying in prison. Everyone talking about him, and then not talking about him for a while, maybe, and then people just assumed that. Anyway. Sorry, carry on.
So, the film Big. Now, I remember watching that as a kid. I think I watched it with a mate years ago when I was very young, and then it was on TV, and it came up to the end of the film. And the end of the film, it's like basically he becomes a kid again, and the woman, the he, I mean, it's a weird plot in itself, but the woman, the adult woman that this kid was having an affair with when he was in an adult body, stays as like an adult woman, and she watches him walking away as a child, and then the film sort of fades to black and the film ends.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said, "Where's the ending?
Well,
They've cut the ending, right?" And
that's
it
what I
must,
remember, Kev. So that's my memory of the end of the
yeah.
film. Him walking
So
down the street.
yeah, so I had this vivid
Oh
memory,
no! He
right?
walks down the street, runs in the house, and his mom starts screaming that he's back. Like, oh my god! You know that's that
Oh,
for
see,
me.
I
That's
don't
the end.
remember. So my well, maybe you've got a different Mandela effect because the ending that I remember seeing, he just walks down the street and it fades to black, right? Now, I remember thinking, well, they cut the ending. They've cut the ending on that because I have this vivid memory, right, of it. He walks away as a child, all unhappy and upset, and then it goes to like the him at school. He's in the classroom, looking bored as the teacher's chatting away, and suddenly he looks up, and this young child, this girl, comes through the doors of the new girl, and he recognizes that it's the woman that he was having an affair with when he was in the adult body, and she's now become a girl, and she sits down next to him, and they smile at each other, and the film ends on an upbeat,
Oh my
and you're like,
god!
oh, it actually did have quite a happy ending to it, right? And I was like, well, where's that ending gone? So I was like doing some googling around it, and other people. This is how I came up first found out about Mandela Effect because everyone else was like, because I didn't know about the Mandela Effect until that point. So I was like, they've cut it. So I thought, I wonder if anyone else. I think I've looked at the alternative ending. Like, is it like they've cut that from TV or something? So I went on there and people started to talk about, yeah, I remember that ending where that, and I'm like, yeah, other people remember that exact same ending, right? So I thought, well, it's obviously a deleted scene, but it was never filmed. And there was like other bits that talk about, oh, they considered doing that, but test or people didn't react well to that ending, so they never filmed it and stuff like that. So I was like, wow, that is a perfect evidence now of a Mandela effect because the memory was 100% clear in my mind and that for me, I'm not a filmmaker or anything, but that ending to me, it makes sense that you've got an upbeat, happy ending. She decided to go back to him as a child and they can grow up all together again.
Yeah.
Ending of the film, yeah. So I'm thinking Mandela effect is real. And I was just Googling that same thing today, just for this episode. And someone has actually come up, no, that there's another film out, I think it was called 14 Going on 30, with a very similar plot.
Oh.
And said you can watch that ending
Oh,
here.
wait a
So I'm
sec.
like,
Is that 40 going on 30?
yeah,
Is that with oh, what's his face? Heartthrob. All the girls love him. He's in Baywatch and he's in um
David Hasselhoff.
no no, like the new Baywatch.
Oh,
And he's in
oh, I know the High School Musical.
yeah,
Oh, what's his name?
what's his
Uh,
name? Yeah,
I know who you mean. That's really bugging me now.
I've got this memory of him being in a film where it was like a switching bodies type film, and it could be 40 going on 13 or 13. What's it called again?
I think it was 14 going on 30.
Oh, okay.
But the interesting thing with that is that I don't ever remember seeing that film, right? But then I went to the clip of like what they're saying you're getting confused with, and I'm like, I watch it, that is the freaking end of the big film that I specifically remembered.
Uh-huh.
Him looking sad, bored, and the girl comes in and it's an upbeat ending. And I'm like, so at some point, what I'd done, I must have seen that film back in the 80s, and it's kind of because I hadn't seen Big for a long
No.
time, it's
So
merged.
the movie 13 going on 30 was released in 2004.
Really? Oh, no, no, no. Hang on. Let me not double because the clip I saw it looks very
Yeah,
80s.
because they've that's part of the plot. It's like set in the 80s.
Oh, really?
I mean, unless this is a
Yeah,
different
14 going on 30. I've got the clip on YouTube
14
still
going
up.
on 30.
Yeah, 14 going on 30.
Oh, there's a 13
Um,
going on 30 movie as well. Oh, yes,
and
1988 film. Yes, okay, got you.
yeah, yeah. So what I must have done is I must have seen that film, and then obviously it's a very similar plot to Big.
Hmm.
That 14 going on 30 is not as good as Big because you've got like Tom Hanks and all that in it. So obviously I've remembered the film Big more, but I've also because that film's similar, I've got confused and just remembered that ending because that ending was probably a better ending and made more sense, and I've merged the two together.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I
interesting.
literally watched. I've got the clip up on YouTube, so you can look at 14 going on 30 ending, and you'll find it on YouTube, and it is exactly how I remember it. So that to me has
Right.
explained that massive Mandela effect for me.
So, so you're suggesting that Mandela effect, or there could be an actual simple explanation for it?
For that one, there
Yeah.
is definitely a simple explanation for it.
Well,
I'm still held out on the jury of like the next one, and I'll let you have a go next. But it links into a movie, and it's the film. I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me, James Bond,
oh,
and it was the first appearance of the villain Jaws. So you know the guy, the tall guy with the metal teeth.
yeah.
So
Go on then.
near the end of the film, James Bond defeats him, and he's under a load of rubble where he's like all injured and that. And this blonde girl with pigtails comes skipping
Oh,
along,
no, I
and
remember
she
this.
stops. Yeah, she watches like looks at Jaws getting up, towering above him, and he sort of like shows his metal teeth at her, and you think, oh God. But then she looks at him and then smiles. And I remember she had braces on, and that was the oh,
That's
she's
the
got
joke.
metal teeth and he's got metal teeth. It's a bit of a pun, yeah? And they go off hand in hand because,
I
oh, look, a
remember that.
match made in heaven, right?
Yeah, I remember that
And this
too.
is yeah, so this is a specific Mandela effect where a lot of people have these memories. And you go look at that clip and it happens exactly as I've described it. But then when she smiles, there are no braces. And you're like, people are like, but I remember braces. And there's nothing ever to suggest that this woman has ever had braces or there's ever been a scene where she's had braces. But then there's other, but it's sort of in people's mind, that scene makes sense that, oh, look, oh, they've got something in common and that's the joke.
Yeah, I remember with braces too. Oh,
You go on YouTube, she has not got braces.
I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, she hasn't. And now,
But
yeah.
there is an advert where it's got the guy who plays Jaws going into a bank, and
Oh,
the girl behind the cashier smiles at him, and she's got braces on, almost as if they're trying to parody like that scene from the James Bond film. But then when you think about it, no, they're probably just making a joke of him having played that part with the metal teeth.
yeah.
But a
I've,
load of people remember it with braces.
yeah. And
It's not.
actually,
I was shocked seeing that. I'm like, where's the braces?
if it's the joke makes more sense with braces, doesn't it?
Yeah. I
That's a
mean,
weird one.
obviously, but then in the director's mind, he's probably the joke being that he's a massive, giant, scary-looking geezer, and she's an innocent-looking young woman with pigtails, and she's very small and petite. Oh, look, what a funny pair!
Oh, right, yeah.
Rather than the added bonus, oh, she's also got braces. Look,
Well, it would have been yeah, because isn't that is that near the end of the film
yeah.
where he right? So that would make even more sense because she's in the film before this moment, though, isn't she? I think.
I can't remember. She's some tourist or something like that.
Oh, right.
Because she's in Moonraker later on. She's in the next film with him.
Oh, right. Okay, that's what I'm getting mixed up with then. No, I just thought there that it might make much more sense if she was in the film before that without braces, and then when she shows up at that point at the end, when they both steps out the rubble, and she's got braces then, and then they walk off together lovingly. Do you know what I mean? That would be a good,
Yeah, but
interesting one. That
there's there's a couple of other film ones that I've got, but you might have some of those film ones as well. So I'll let you give me your
well,
next Mandela
I'll
effect.
I'll give you my Mandela effect, right? This isn't a mass Mandela effect because it only applies to people who have a memory of uh, like a fortnightly comic. It's not a comic book. It's like a adventure magazine
Oh, I know
from
what
the
one you're going to
90s.
talk about.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's called the Ancestral Trail, right?
yeah.
And when I was a kid, I must have. I probably only had got managed to get about 4 episodes, or 4 issues of this, the Ancestral Trail, and it's awesome. You got like the first one. We talked about this before in the podcast, but you get like
Yeah.
on the first one you got this big sort of bigger than A3 size, um like folder with the magazine in. The artwork is
So I
just,
bought that as well.
yeah, the artwork is awesome. Um, quite dark. Like I don't know, like fantasy style. Do you think?
It
Um,
was a fantasy one, yeah, because I
yeah,
was heavily into the fight fantasy stuff and
yeah.
all of that at the time. But the thing is, I am older than you, so I bought the first issue and I thought it's a bit too young and
Uh,
childish for me.
See, I was
So I was
probably
at that age,
yeah, I was probably 9 or 10 when it came out. So
which is the right age. I think I
yeah,
was probably like 16, 15, 16, probably.
well, it is good when you look at it now. So, but anyway, right. So issue 2 comes along, right, and I saw when I went out and I still had a few. Well, no, I found one of the magazines. So I was like, oh, I want to get the rest of them. I remember this; it was awesome. So I've ended up like over the years just buying. I've got them all now. In fact, I've got more than them all. I'm gonna start selling them because I've got like several issues of each one. So anyway, but I always had this like niggling thing with the second issue, which is called Tolosh the Garoon, and it's a picture of like if you imagine, you ever see Critters?
Yeah, the black furry
Yeah,
creature things.
there's a picture of like a sort of critter in some water with its hand, its clawed hands sort of sticking out the water, little dangerous thing, right? And anyway, I always had this thing, but every time I looked at it, I was like, I'm sure this looked different when I got it. So there was always this memory of like it just looking different. And I remembered him without fur on the front of it. He's got fur, and I remembered it without fur. Anyway, years and years of me going, I don't get this, and then doing searches, I found that other people had the same memory, and I was like, is this just one of them things, or is this a real thing? And then recently, I managed to get myself version, the alternative cover, and the reason that there is an alternative cover is because they made one which not just the cover but the artwork inside um, was too graphic for kids. There was a few complaints, so they made
Mhm.
they made a second version, which actually is the furry one, and it's really odd because sorry, no, it's the furry version was the original, and I've only managed to work this out, right, because I thought this other version with this monster on there, um without fur, I thought that was the original because it was the one that you couldn't seem to get hold of, and then you could get a hold of all the ones with the fur on. Anyway, it turns out that they'd made the original with the furry one, and inside the artwork's absolutely brilliant, but it's quite violent. You've got
Hmm.
these little tolosh, whatever they are, tearing tearing limbs, and eating. There's blood everywhere, and all most of the pages are just a little bit more violent. And then you look at the other one, which is the version without the fur, and everything's a little bit dumbed down, a little bit more like instead of one of the characters being sort of wrapped up by worms and him struggling, it's got him kind of looks like he's kind of lying down asleep instead, wrapped up in worms. You know what I mean? And
Oh, okay.
and then and there's a scene where one of them I'm saying a scene. It's like, there's a scene where one of them in the X-rated version, there's somebody getting dragged down. He's got ripped clothes. And they're all biting him and stuff. And in the dumbed down version, the kiddies version, they're not biting him. There's like a different it looks like girls, sort of you know, creepy girls coming up from the swamp,
To
dragging
rape
them
him
under. Yeah,
in the kiddie version.
yeah. So and then yeah, everything's just a little bit different. Anyway, I've got both versions. So this Mandela effect,
So you've got a reason for that Mandela effect, have you?
yeah, but it's
Like the big, so we've so your ancestral trail one.
yeah,
You've got an explanation for that Mandela effect, which is provable.
yeah.
The big Mandela effect, well, that's provable because that scene was just from another movie, and I've just people have just merged them two together because they're similar movies.
Hmm.
There we
Um,
are.
there we are. There's there's other ones as well, which I'm like, I'll just quickly run through a couple. Don't have to discuss them in any depth, but there's a Looney Tunes one where
Ah, I know that. Yeah.
it's the one where people remember him saying, what's up, Doc?" But it's actually just, "What's up, Doc?" And I'm like, to be honest with you, my either or, it doesn't really trigger anything for me. What's
Well,
up,
I thought
Doc?
you were going to say, yeah, hang on, what's the two versions? What's up, Doc, or what's up, Duck?
They reckon it's just "What's up, Doc." He doesn't say, "What's up, Doc?" But I think during when he's talking to
Oh,
like,
without that bit, what's up, Doc?
yeah, but
What's up, Doc?
I think
Yeah, I thought it was what's up, Doc?
I'm probably more inclined to think, "What's up, Doc?" But I think that's because
Yeah,
during the cartoon, he like comes over and he's munching on his carrot, and Bugs Bunny just
yeah.
goes, "What's up, Doc?" You know what I mean? I don't think it's like the "What's up, Doc" bit at the beginning or the end isn't. I think that's sort of slightly different. So I don't think that's a pure Mandela effect. I think that is just um that
You've
he does
remembered
say
it
"What's
wrong.
up, Doc?"
Yeah.
at some point, and that seems to be the one that people kind of warm to a little bit more.
See, I thought you were going to do the Looney Tunes or Looney Tunes. There's
Yeah,
two versions of that.
yeah. And I think that one as well. I think there is a Looney Tunes. Or is it Looney Tunes? I can't remember now. Which is which, whichever. I think there are two of them. Anyway, I don't.
Well, the funny talking about cartoons, you reminded me of, and again, this is another Mandela effect that you can come up with an explanation for, because I remember I'm not going to do the funny accent because it's mildly racist. So in Tom and Jerry cartoons, there are some racist elements within it, and they had like a black housemaid with like a big black housemaid. We only saw the legs
Oh yeah. Oh
and she did the Thomas
yeah, yeah,
voice,
yeah,
and then she'd be jumping and scared of the
yeah.
mouse. And she was in a few of these cartoons. And I remember watching those cartoons, but it was like a skinny white woman doing all of those bits.
Oh,
And then there's another, but then when I've watched it again, because I had them on video when I was a kid, and then when I watch it other times, it's the black woman with the big black woman. I'm not going to do the accent, but you know
yeah,
what I mean.
yeah.
But there is an explanation for that one
Oh,
because they did go back and edit some of those bits out of it. So they have taken her out on certain versions and put a white woman in there.
all right.
And I think they did that years ago. So even think like during probably the 80s, they even then thought this is wrong.
Maybe. Or she did wear socks. Maybe there were. I don't know. My memories
No,
are.
you can actually find two versions of that if you look for it.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
They did a lot of editing on a lot of Tom and Jerry because I
Yeah.
don't realize at the time how actual some elements in that are real. They do a lot of blackface comedy in Tom and Jerry.
Well, they did
It's no
it.
wonder they don't show it anymore.
Well, Disney have always done that, like exaggerated stereotypes, so that you can,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, so that there's a clear, uh, sort of, it's a clear interpretation of a certain type of person or whatever. They've always done that in like, I mean, you see it in Dumbo, you see it. But the thing is, like, as a
the
kid,
crows.
yeah, as a kid when you're watching these things, you never even think of that. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's a
Yeah.
cartoon,
No, I
and
never thought of that as a. We'll look at the explosion going off in Tom's face, and he turns round to the screen with a black face, and he makes a funny voice, and oh my word, and you're like, oh no, it's just a funny voice, and it's funny. But now, when you sort of you can see what the animators were taking the piss out of.
right. So
Um,
I'd have to look at that because I can't really even remember like that. But yeah, there's probably certain things like it's a sign of the times, um, particularly in America, I suppose. But anything before the 80s, you're gonna find some form of like racism or something.
yeah,
And yeah,
racists. Um,
racists.
Either racists or paedophiles from the 80s. Take your pick.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
Um,
so what was it? Oh yeah. So I mean, yeah. Talking about the other thing that I can people. So the famous line from Star Wars. Do you know that one?
oh, Luke, yeah, Luke, I am your father, or
Yeah,
just like
it's
no, I
Luke.
am.
I am your father, but it's like no, I am your father.
Yeah,
But I'm thinking, I'm sure there was a scene in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure where they're pretending to fight, but they've got swords and they're pretending they're lightsabers, and one goes, "Luke, I am your father."
yeah,
But I think that's a reference, like it's Star Wars,
and
and I
that's
think maybe people are remembering the the words that they're using,
yeah,
right, and that's stuck in the memory.
yeah, and I don't think I don't think that's a Mandela effect either. I think that is literally just there's so
Yeah,
many like parodies of it. You know what I mean? You just end up with
I misquote all the time on stuff
yeah,
anyway.
exactly. And what about the C3PO's golden leg,
Oh, it's a silver leg, isn't
silver leg?
it?
Sorry, yeah,
And yeah, I never really noticed that as a kid, but I think it's because in certain lighting and the grainy quality of maybe the picture VHS back then,
yeah,
and you don't really look for that sort of detail. You just see 3PO, and it's only when it's pointed out you notice it.
yeah.
You've never really been noticing that before, have you?
Mm. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just attention to detail. Unless you're like a mega Star Wars fan, then how are you meant to sort of remember what whether C3PO was fully gold or whether he had one leg that was I don't know. It's one of
Well,
those.
it's funny. I think with Star Wars, in 50 years' time, you're going to have a Mandela effect on Star Wars, where Return of the Jedi, where people are going to go, I'm sure I remember an ending of Return of the Jedi when the Ewoks were just singing a silly song without all this CGI and everything. And I'm sure I remember Anakin's ghost being an old boy, not that young guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, but that's because of George Lucas's edits.
Ah. Yeah. But what about the really the big famous ones like I suppose the Luke I'm your father one is a big famous one, but the Monopoly Man's monocle.
Oh, I was going to bring that one up as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that he had a monocle on it. Because, as well, do you remember there was a scene in that classic film, Ace Ventura Pet Detective,
Uh-huh.
where he picks up an old boy who's got a monocle and says, "Oh, look, I'm the Monopoly Man." So maybe that's where we've all assumed the monocle comes from. But
Yeah,
I remember him holding a monocle up, running, holding a monocle up. And
like
then I'm shocked when I actually see the actual. It was like, oh yeah, he hasn't got a monocle.
there must be something somewhere that shows him. If he's never ever had a monocle, there's something somewhere that did have a monocle, and I'm wondering
Yeah,
what that
but
was.
because why have I? It's a bit of a weird thing to remember a monocle. You know, a pair of glasses maybe, but a monocle.
Yeah.
Uh, it looks weird without the monocle there.
Hold on a sec. I've got Monopoly right here. This isn't Friends. It's a newer Monopoly. Hold on. Where's all my other ones? But I'm thinking about. I'm suddenly thinking right that yeah, the actual uh Monopoly man himself doesn't have a monocle, but when they go directly to jail square, was there
Yeah,
something?
the policeman. No, the policeman's blowing a whistle, isn't he?
Oh, he's blowing a whistle. That's right. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah, there's
There's
definitely no
free parking. Hold
monocles.
on, free park. No, it's a car.
No, that's a. I used to think that was a. Again, I used to think that was a telephone, an old-fashioned telephone.
Oh,
But why
did
would it be a telephone?
you?
It's a car.
And the funny thing is the artwork. So well, when you're in jail or just visiting, it's
Yeah,
it's really rubbish art. And then you look at the go to jail one, and the art's the same style, but because it's got color, it looks a bit better. But the man in jail is really rubbish. It reminds us of old, like if you used to go to like a traditional fairground, like an old style one, Carter's Fair, or like what a one of those proper old ones where you get it, you don't quite feel quite safe going in on one of the rides because they're still kind of rickety and stuff. It reminds us of those because you could go and get like fortune teller, go on the fortune telling machine, and you would get little printed off pieces of card, and the artwork on them
yeah,
would usually be almost. It looks to me like the same style that maybe it was the style of art at that era, just black and white,
yeah.
kind of sketchy kind of art, really. It's
Um,
interesting.
I've got a funny story about Monopoly. I know it's
Yeah.
not digressing, but obviously my wife is a big Britney Spears fan, and for Christmas she got the Britney Spears Monopoly set.
Yeah.
Um, so she made me play it. I mean, I hate Monopoly anyway. It's my least favorite game because it's the premise of what would you have to do in the game? You've got to get mortgages and pay bills and rent
Yeah.
and not go to jail. So that's fun. But anywho, each of the squares had a theme, like it was a record, and you could buy silver discs or record labels and stuff into the property. But anyway, it still had to go to jail and the in jail square. And I'm like, they've missed a trick here because why didn't they just have, when you land on the go to jail, instead of that, it says, have mental health breakdown, attack journalists with an umbrella, go straight to conservatorship. And then to get out of the conservatorship, you've got to get the free Britney card. I'm like, they didn't do it though.
Sounds like a good idea to me. You should
Yeah, I would have done it.
yeah.
It would have made the game more amusing for me. Have mental health breakdown, go straight to conservatorship.
I wonder if anyone knows if there is a bit of a Mickey take of Monopoly kind of game that would make it a bit more fun for people who aren't really into Monopoly.
Um, I mean, I've got various editions of Monopoly, and it's still boring. I've got the Walking Dead Monopoly.
Oh yeah.
It's still boring. I've got the Simpsons Monopoly. Oh look, I'm landing on Springfield. It's still boring.
Yeah.
I've got the Millionaires Monopoly where I've got credit cards and you can like use no money, but you put it on your credit cards. It's still boring.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mandela Effect.
Mandela Effect. What about The Shining? So The Shining, um,
I didn't know about the Shining one. Is there a
yeah,
Shining one?
apparently people think that they they
It's one of my favourite
they've
movies.
heard
So
of
go on.
well, yeah, they've heard of the phrase "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy."
All work and no play makes Dale a duck. Yeah, it's
Jack,
what he's typing away on his typewriter over and over again. All work, no play makes Jack a dull boy. Yeah.
but people think that he says it, and
What?
he never says it in the movie.
No, he just types it.
Yeah, and it's on posters and stuff. So that to me, that's not a proper Mandela effect, is it?
No, I mean I've seen that movie so many times. It's one of my favourite films.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's well, it is, I suppose it is a Mandela effect because people. It's like me remembering a certain ending of Big. They've confused the. Yeah, I don't know. I'd give that a Mandela effect. It's just that I know that movie inside out
yeah.
to the point I've watched analysis videos on it and everything like that.
I used to watch
Um,
analysis videos on The Walking Dead. I was massively into The Walking Dead, and then I got to
I think
season
everyone
eight.
was that it got boring, didn't it?
It was so good up until a point, and then I got to season eight, and I haven't watched season nine, but I want to.
I can't finish it. I think when I had COVID, I watched a couple of seasons sort of non-stop, and it's like, oh, it's so boring. With a few like, oh, that's an interesting bit boring. You're like, oh.
They were the masters. There was one season. So excuse me. probably like season 5 or something. I think it was where they all season they travelled along this railway line. Um,
That was after was that after they had to leave the prison and they
yeah,
going to
yeah,
Alexandria or whatever? Yeah.
yeah, and they spend the whole season traveling up the railway line, and then they get there, and then they get trapped, and the whole thing was kind of like, oh, this is taking a bit of a boring turn now, like the
Yeah.
whole series, like you're a bit like, oh, but I'm
I
watching it
think that's
because
where I started to think this is boring
yeah,
now. Like,
but that's when they seem to change the format even more, where it was like one episode would be to talk about a character, then the other episode would be the main storyline, which was a bit more exciting, and then they would just flip and change like that. But then right at the end, I remember we're watching it, and right at the end they go get trapped, and Rick gets chucked in like a container, and the rest of them are there, and he turns around and says something like, "They're gonna be sorry for what they've done," and you're like, "Yes, I need to watch the next season."
yeah,
You've spent the whole season going, "This isn't very good anymore," and you get to the very last episode
yeah,
with an exciting bit and go, "I can't stop watching it now." They seem to be the masters of
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's what lost it for me is they killed off all their interesting characters, and then they had the storylines where we're going to focus on this character and their relationship with that person for an entire episode,
Mm,
but they're boring characters.
I know.
Like no one's interested in Eugene. I can't even understand what he's saying half the time because he's mumbling.
Yeah,
Or someone's lesbian's girlfriend
yeah.
that's gone off and like she's a boring character.
I really liked Carol's character. She had, but again, it's the characters that have gone through the struggles. You know what I mean? They were weak before, and then they've become strong, and then and some. Do you know what I mean? It's those characters. It's those kinds of characters that you really start like fall in love with because there's a there's a big change in them. Whereas some of the other characters you don't really see. I don't know. They might not even have vulnerabilities. So what's the point in developing the character if they don't even have any vulnerabilities in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, I think that was a probably just got the characters got boring in it.
Yeah. There was another one as well, the Challenger explosion. So, and this is another one where I'm kind of like, is this really a Mandela effect? So there's a surprising number of
It
people.
definitely blew up.
It definitely blew up, but people recall that the space shuttle exploded before liftoff. Well, actually, it exploded
Yeah.
moments after liftoff, and I'm like, does it matter? Does it really
Yeah,
matter?
it blew up.
It blew up. It started to lift off. It blew up. Like whether it actually got 2 feet off the ground or not, it blew up. I don't know if that's a I don't know if that's a true Mandela effect. Is it? It's just some people think, oh, it just blew up when it was taken off.
I
Didn't.
must have been about 10 or 11 when that happened. I'm
Mm,
thinking, did it happen in 1985, 86?
don't have the date. I can find out.
I remember it happening. I'm that old.
Yeah.
That's not a Mandela effect, really. That's just like being picky for the sake of being picky.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what is a good Mandela effect. And this had me like, so it's the whole Snow White
1986.
with the.
Challenger
Oh, yeah,
exploded.
there you go. Yeah, and
1986.
I said 85 or 86, didn't
There you
I?
go.
Boom. And that's just remembering what I looked like at that age, so or that
Yeah.
time. So I looked about from my memory, I must
86.
have been about 11 to 86.
Yeah.
So okay, Snow White, the mirror, mirror on the wall, who is
Yes.
the fairest of them all? It was never mirror, mirror on this magic mirror on the wall. And I went back, I'm like, oh yeah, it's magic mirror. Why does everyone think it's mirror, mirror on even a Disney TV series they called in 2012 it's Mirror, Mirror, it's called. Because they thought that it's mirror, mirror, not magic mirror.
And I know why this is.
Oh,
Because
go on.
this is another one where it's not a true Mandela effect, really, because there is you can work it out, and it's because in the original Disney Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, she looks in the mirror and she says magic mirror on the wall. Who was the fairest of them all? When you read the books, the Disney books of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it says mirror mirror on the wall. So
Really?
yeah. So the books have actually got it in, and that's where the
So hang on, when did they release the books? After the movie?
uh I don't know actually. That's an interesting one. I'm not really sure, but
Uh,
they are different.
but the thing is, though, this is to me gives you a little bit of a proof of that. We've got a proof of a Mandela effect here because we have the film. You look at the film now, we've got Magic Mirror on the wall, which makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So they've done it in another media where they've remembered it as
Mirror,
Mirror
mirror.
Mirror.
Yeah.
So you've got.
Well, no, I don't
I
think it's
think
about.
that's.
I don't think it's about because if you're a kid and your parents are reading the story to you and they're reading it and they're going, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
Yeah,
And
but the authors wrote it as Mirror Mirror. Why did the authors write that as Mirror Mirror? That doesn't even make sense.
don't know. I do
Magic
not know.
mirror on the wall. I mean, if you're writing a book based on the Snow White movie, you've watched that Snow White movie inside out. You've got the
Yeah,
script.
yeah, but also like
So,
we've got a lot of Disney books, and they're all shortened versions of the films with the artwork from the cartoons. And you read them, and it's just some of it is not exactly right. Do you know what I mean? So
well, they're abridged versions. So I'll accept that they're not going to be. They're going to cut bits out. However, I still maintain. Why did the authors writing books based on the Snow White Disney movie write Mirror Mirror?
no idea.
Where did they get that from? And then why do I've never read the Snow White books. My only experience of Snow White is the movie.
Mm,
Now I haven't watched that movie loads and loads of times, but I remember I must have been. I remember my mum randomly because I never went to the cinema with my mum, but randomly, after school, she took me to watch Snow White, and I must have been eight, maybe 7 or 8.
hmm.
So I remember I'd watched it in the cinema. it I've never really watched it again since, but even my memory is mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah. See, I'm.
So I haven't read the books to even pick that up. And it's not like I study, unlike The Shining, I don't study Snow White because it's not a film that I particularly like.
I know, but this is what I'm saying though. I think maybe like you might watch as a kid, you might watch the film once or twice, right? Magic Mirror on the Wall. It's one line from a whole movie, but when your parents might read it to you before bed,
But they never did. They never did read that
yeah.
to me before bed. They never
Well,
read anything before bed to me. But
maybe you've heard it from other kids. Then do you know what I mean? It. I don't know.
But it's got a sort. If it has a source, and it goes. The reason for this Mandela effect is that it goes back to some author has wrote a book based on the movie, and they've changed. Why have they changed the word from magic mirror to a mirror mirror? What's a mirror mirror?
It's just mirror, mirror on the wall. Maybe they thought it just sort of flowed a little bit better. Mirror, mirror on the wall, because like maybe it's an example. Actually, maybe it's an example of how years ago they would dumb things down a little bit so it's more child friendly. Magic mirror on the wall,
But
mirror, mirror on the wall is easier to remember or easier to say. Or
it's a magic mirror, though. I mean, that's like me saying, Steve, who is the fairest of them all? Mirror, mirror. Is that mirror, mirror? No, it's a magic mirror. So it's magic mirror on the wall. Why did they change? But then you'd think to yourself, if it originally in the alternative parallel universe where it was mirror mirror, why would they have written that the word mirror mirror then?
yeah,
See, I'm
I don't know.
jury's out on this Mandela effect because you've got a book that says mirror mirror, and now you've got a film that says magic mirror,
But
and a
again,
book based on the film. So
but
someone has. Why have you remembered it as mirror
we
mirror?
well, you see, to me, this is just another example. Like yours, this is a little bit different, right? But it is related, right? So years ago, I should do this again, right? I should do like an article on this actually. But I looked at different versions of the Bible because I wanted to prove a point, right? I was having a chat with some friends, right, and they were going on about things that are said in the Bible, and I was like, well, don't forget that the Bible has changed over time, right?
Yeah.
So with each new sort of not not even translation, but with each new edition, there are changes that are made to try and sort of make it more understandable for today's language rather than,
Basically, it's George Lucas and Star Wars.
yeah, exactly. So what I did was this was completely random, right? But I had an app on my phone at the time, and I was like, bear in mind, this was probably 15 years ago, and I was like, right, let's have a look. So I looked at was it the King James version, and then a different, and then maybe a newer one of the newer versions. Anyway, I picked a random place in Revelations, as you do, right? The Book of Revelation, and and okay, so without remembering the exact words, right? It said they had a quote from God, right? So the older version said, um, and God said, and God, sorry, it said, and God, comma, who is the something like who is the creator of all, said, and then he said something, right? In the newer version, it
That's an accurate quote.
yeah, I know, but in the newer version, it said, and God said, I am the creator of all, blah blah blah.
Oh, so
And I
that's the
was like,
same thing changed around.
but it's yeah, but the whole meaning changes because in the old version it was describing who God is. In the new version, it
He's
was
saying who he
actually
is.
saying who. Yeah, it's actually saying that God said who He is. I am the creator of all. And I'm like, hold on, but these are two different complete. And I've just randomly found this in Revelation, the difference between a more up to date version of the Bible, right? Anyway, we had this long conversation, and that to me shows it's related to this because you'll get somebody's interpretation of it because they're trying to sort of dumb it down or they want to make it easier to read or whatever. Mirror, mirror, they might go, you know what I mean? Like you've got right now you've got a lot of sensitivity writers who will pick apart every little thing and oh, this could be interpreted into this and that, so change this, change that, and that this could be an example. The whole story of mirror, mirror, magic mirror on the wall, it could be an example of that where they've gone magic mirror on the wall. Oh, it's a bit of a mouthful, actually. Let's just change it to mirror, mirror on the wall. Let's keep it child friendly. You know, it's something as stupid as that. It sounds daft,
It's the
doesn't it?
same number of syllables.
Exactly. I know. I know.
It's not making it easier.
But
Um,
I don't know.
the other UK one, because a lot of it is American stuff, like Bernstein Bears. I don't know that. No, I'd see the other bits. I'm like, well, I wouldn't know that anyway. But
Mhm.
the one that I do remember, I mean, I don't wear the clothing, but I do remember the clothing brand Fruit of the Loom.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Do you remember the Fruit of the Loom?
yeah.
No, if you was to tell me what's the logo for Fruit of the Loom, I said, oh, it's like a load of fruit with a cornucopia in the background with Fruit of the Loom written underneath. There is no cornucopia.
I saw a video where somebody said there is. They've got a T-shirt which shows the cornucopia on. Now I've got a theory.
Apparently, there never was there.
My personal thought on this one:
Knock off cheap imitation.
knock off cheap imitations.
Yeah, is that
How
what
did
you
you
were going
know?
to say? Yeah, yeah. Oh, I've got a fake. Yeah, but hang on. Who on earth is wanting to buy a cheap knockoff, cheap imitation of Fruit of the Loom? Because my memory is, it's not like Gucci or anything, is it? Or I don't know, what's a top Nike or
Yeah,
it's a Fruit of the Loom with a cheap brand from what I
Adidas,
remember.
Adidas four stripe.
You know your family's poor if you're buying knocked off cheap versions of Fruit of the Loom.
No, but I did see I did see a video. It was a TikTok video where she was like, "I found it," and she had a T-shirt. It looked like an old T-shirt, and she showed the label, and it was Fruit of the
The
Loom logo with the
cornucopia.
cornucopia in it. Yeah. So
See, I can't imagine it without the cornucopia.
yeah, to be honest with
Can you
you,
still get Fruit of the Loom?
sorry.
Can you still get Fruit of the Loom labels?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't it just a make of
There
the
was a T-shirt. I just remember a T-shirt
yeah,
like Fruit of the
I
Loom.
think it was just who made the company that made the T-shirt, or something, wasn't it? It's nothing to do with like an actual, like a branded of like it's not like a sports brand or whatever. It's just I don't
Yeah, but
know.
it must have been popular at some way. I mean, I don't think I ever owned a Fruit of the Loom, but I remember other people having Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah, I've had T-shirts before that were had Fruit of the Loom on them years ago. I
Is
haven't
it a
seen it for a long
stamp of
time either.
quality or something? I don't know.
I,
I'm gonna. We'll have a podcast on Fruit of the Loom.
yeah. Well,
Um,
That's the question, actually. Oh, have you got any more Mandela Effect?
Um, Only, I mean, it's a very obscure one, and I don't think anyone else will even remember this, but I used to play a lot of text adventure games on computers.
Yeah.
And one of the earliest computers we had was a TRS-80,
Mm.
and there was a text adventure game on there called Bedlam, and you would wake up in a padded cell in a mental asylum called Bedlam, and the patients have taken over, or there's no actual staff around, and you've got to escape out of this mental asylum. Now, the clever thing about this game is that it had different endings that would be randomly generated. So the easy ending would be that if you got out your cell, you had to collect different coloured keys and things, and then you could find some meat in a fridge, and then you'd get a pill from a dispensary, and then you go to another area and there's a dog that you can't get past. So what you would do in the one ending is you put the pill in the meat and throw it to the dog. You'd kill the dog and escape that way.
Ah.
Now, if you're in one of the other endings where okay, I'm going to try and get that one, and you feed the dog the poisoned meat, but the dog doesn't die, you're like, oh, I've got to find the different ending. And there were a number of these different endings that were randomly generated. Now, it just so happened today I was having a look at someone's playthrough, and I said, I'm going to play through all the different endings of how you get out of Bedlam. And they did the dog with the pill one. That's the easier one. And the other one is that you're wandering around, and in this ending, you meet some pretending that they think they're Napoleon, and you come across a room. There's a secret door in there, and you try to open secret door, but you're not strong enough to open that door. So he's like, Napoleon, open the door, and Napoleon can open that door.
Ah.
So and he said, oh, these are and there's three endings, right? And what was the other ending? He didn't actually show what the third ending was, but I'm like, no, oh no. The other ending was, I think you had to. It was the dog one, the Napoleon one to get out that way, and I think there was like a Picasso would paint a door or something. But funnily enough, he said that I remember that the way you got out of the other way, because you meet Houdini, someone who thinks they're Houdini. So he's trying to escape in a padded cell, and you can let Houdini out. And then what you would have to do is you'd have to paint. There's all these painted doors all over the place that Picasso was painting, and the only way you could get them to open them in that ending was to get Houdini to open the door. Now, I don't think, looking at that, I don't think that was actually an ending, but I specifically remember having to get Houdini to open a painted door. But
Huh.
that's a very obscure Mandela effect that's probably more personal to me from an obscure text adventure game from when I was 8. But there we are.
There's going to be someone out there that goes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you never
Yeah.
know. Um, I think that's all my Mandela effects. So, I mean, to me, the most of those can be explained away. I can't explain the James Bond braces scene away because too many people remember it with braces, and it makes sense.
Unless
And
it is that advert, an advert which was a sort of the parody of
but
it.
then, yeah, maybe. But the thing is, though, that's an American advert, and we wouldn't have had that American advert over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, to me, that doesn't. And the scene makes sense with braces. And the other one, I'm still jury's out on the mirror mirror one because I still don't buy that the people writing a book based on that movie would change magic mirror to mirror mirror. It makes no sense.
Yeah. I
And
just
then
think,
from ever on, everything that's followed on, even like a TV production company at Disney, have created a TV series called Mirror Mirror,
yeah, but
as if they've just adopted that.
yeah, because that's just, they'll go with whatever the popular memory of it. I mean, to me, it would make it more interesting if they did call it Magic Mirror in line with the
Mm.
original. But if
Um,
everyone's just memory of it is just sort of, you know, changed a little
oh,
bit.
there's another Disney one. And there's a bit in the Jungle Book where Baloo the bear he dresses in a grass skirt,
Oh
and my
yeah,
memory is that he's got coconut bra. But
yeah.
he doesn't have a coconut bra. He never had a coconut bra.
He didn't.
But interestingly enough, the animator of that scene in an interview or a book talks about animating the coconuts on his breast as a coconut bra. So the animator has even got confused with that Mandela effect. So he remembers having a Barlow with a coconut bra,
I remember
but
the
he never
coconut
did.
bra.
He never did. And he's got coconut on his mouth, like a
Yeah.
monkey kind of
Oh yeah, he
thing.
definitely did that. He definitely did that on his mouth. But he definitely had a. Oh, this is a weird
No,
one.
he never did. He never did, apparently.
Oh, this is where you need the original, like a VHS of it, because the only way you're gonna find out
Oh,
is by
my God.
watching the original.
You've just reminded me of another Mandela effect from a
Yeah,
film. And so, as a friend brought this one up, and do you know Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
yeah,
Do you know the bit where he's the bloke goes, oh, Mum Cherie, oh, Mum Cherie, Mum Cherie, and he
yeah,
pulls
yeah,
his heart out? So my memory of that, I've seen two versions of this. I remember he puts his hand on the guy's chest,
yeah.
and you sort of see him turning it around and that, and then he pulls his hand away, and then you see him holding his beating heart in his hand. Now I remember they used to edit that scene out of him actually holding the heart in his hand in the TV cut of it.
Uh-huh,
However, his friend's gone to me. He couldn't believe it. He watched that. They got it on DVD. They watched it or on Disney Plus. No, he watched it on Disney.
uh-huh.
And he said, you actually see him putting his hand on there, and then his hand like breaking into the bloke's flesh and actually disappearing into his chest. I'm like, that never
What?
happened.
No, I can't remember
It
that.
has.
I remember a lump. I'm pretty sure a lump starts to come out of his chest when he's got his hand on top of it. I can't remember
You
his.
actually see his hand going into the chest, like a rubber chest thing.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
god!
I don't ever remember. I
Uncut,
thought
the uncut
maybe
version.
they've added, maybe that's some uncut version.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the DVDs I've got, it's in that, and I'm like, this is bizarre. Unless
Huh.
they've always, I kind of think what's happened there is that they used to show it on TV a lot. It used to be a Christmas movie. I'd never had videos back in the 80s. So,
Yeah.
oh, it's an Indiana Jones film on at Christmas. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then it would obviously they'd cut that, wouldn't they? Because
Yeah.
it was too graphic.
Yeah.
And then what has happened is I've obviously bought the box set on DVD years ago. Probably watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then thought Temple of Doom wasn't that great. Skipped it and just watched Last Crusade. And that's why I've never seen that version before because I've never sat down and watched it on DVD.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, really, because on reflection, I do quite enjoy Temple of Doom now.
Yeah.
It's I think it's a underrated classic, and interestingly enough, it's a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Yeah.
which I find interesting.
Yeah. I really like him. I really like those the first three.
Yeah, they don't exist after the first three. I tried to watch that Dial of Destiny. It was awful. I went in
Ah,
trying to be
yeah.
open minded after hearing the reviews, and I'm like, the plot isn't there. I was
Yeah.
like, why are they going there,
You know why,
or
don't you?
how?
You
I
know
don't
why?
understand.
You know why? Because Hollywood um
Yeah.
are are they're not interested in plots anymore. They're interested in action. They think that audiences are dumb. They think that if they do anything, that's a bit more kind of complicated, people aren't going to get it. So they just keep things simple. And
But it wasn't simple to me. I didn't get what was going on. I'm like, why are they going there? I've forgotten why they've even got that or doing that. I'm just like
I even we thought
bored.
I even thought it was dumb when they actually went back in time, that they went back in time to where they did. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, right? But I was so looking forward to it, right? I thought that Indiana Jones was going to go back in time and actually visit like the previous films. I thought that it would be awesome.
Oh,
He's going to,
he
just
was.
like Back to the Future 2, when he pops back up and he sees himself. I thought, oh, this is going to be brilliant. And they did all the animation at the
So,
beginning, which I thought was, hot, like more than half decent. And then they didn't do any of that, and
so
instead,
interestingly enough,
just
they were going to do that. So I think this is what happened with the film is
It's
they
just,
basically cut loads of and refilmed loads of bits of film, and they filmed it in certain different scenes. So they basically had a patchwork that they can
yeah,
test, do that cut of the film, see how that goes, change it around, do it as that. So they're sort of filming it by like different scenes, and then they're getting the final product. They're taking a film from that cut, a scene from that cut, a scene from that cut, and it's an incoherent mess.
yeah.
So the original premise was that what was going to happen is they were going to go back, and old Indy was going to be alongside young Indy in one of the previous adventures. And what was going to happen is Indy was going to end up die. Old Indy was going to die in the past, but young Indy was going to die in the past as well,
Hmm.
of raising the whole of that timeline of Indiana
Oh
Jones.
my
And
God.
then Phoebe Waller-Bridge was going to pick up the hat and then carry on as Indiana Jones. And it ended with a montage of her running away in front of the boulder, replacing Harrison Ford in all of the old
Oh
film
my
scenes.
God. Come on.
And it was like people negative reacted to that, saying
Well,
you've
yeah.
just you've erased Indiana Jones.
Yeah, because the
So
focus is wrong. They could have done all of that with without erasing anyone, without doing any of that. But they could have done all of that visiting back. They could have been so intelligent, right? And have gone, right, we'll get Indiana Jones to do this, which will affect the first film. Not to change the first film, but to make the first film work even better. You know what I mean? The reason Indiana Jones did something was because the Indiana Jones from the Dial of Destiny went back and placed something there or dropped something, which meant that it was there for Indiana Jones in the first film. You know what I mean? They could have made. There's probably all sorts of
like
stuff they
Back
could
to
have
the
done.
Future too, but
Yeah, exactly.
but they were pushing the idea of wanting a TV series with Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Indiana Jones, and they
Uh-huh.
wanted to erase Indiana Jones. She takes over, but the end. That's why they had to reshoot the ending. So like the meet Archimedes are in the past. He wants to stay there and die. He's mortally wounded. He's been shot and he's
Pointless.
dying. And
Pointless.
all of a sudden, she punches him out. And then the next scene, he's waking up in his bed
Yeah.
back in like New York, and oh look, it's a happy ending. Marion is there, his ex-wife, and all's good. As I right, that's very rushed. And how do you end up back there? And
Yeah.
so the idea was where he was shot, dying, he was supposed to die,
Yeah.
and I think somehow his old self was supposed to be affected and die as well,
Uh-huh.
or he was meant to save Phoebe Waller-Bridge by sacrificing himself as a young person or something like that. So the young Indiana Jones was meant to die, sacrificing himself for her because they go back in time. And then old Indiana Jones was mortally wounded and dies as well.
Yeah.
And then he gives her the hat and the whip for
Yeah.
her to go off and says, "Replace me." And then
And that's the
they changed it all.
and that's the whole problem with the idea. You know, she could have gone back. She could have been back in time with him as well. She could have, she could have been the one that has actually accidentally done something, so that whatever happened in the first film happens, and then accidentally done something. So in the second film, whatever happens, do you know what I mean? She could have been the one that did that to enhance the story to make it more interesting. But instead, they focus on let's try and replace Indiana Jones altogether. It's just ridiculous. Anyway,
I
oh,
I wonder if that whole opening sequence where he's young and back in the war and everything was supposed to have been later on in the film, and they've
maybe.
edited it and changed bits around. And to me, I think that's why the plot it doesn't make any sense to me, and it's all
Yeah,
over the place,
yeah,
and just was a bad, poorly made film.
yeah. Yep, just like the
There we
Hunger
go. We
Games. But
digress.
we'll talk about the Hunger Games another time because that's another.
Yeah, I do. We should talk about modern movies as well because
Yeah,
I have this argument with people. Like to me, I think movies now are too long. They're too long. They're being self-indulgent directors. I watched like
yep.
what? Who needs a 3 hour long movie? Um, I mean, I prefer the theatrical editions of the Lord of the Rings. It's like too
Uh,
long. Stop dragging them out. It's too
no,
long.
I disagree with Lord of the Rings. I disagree. I do agree in general, but when I saw the full on extended cuts and of Lord of the Rings, and every single thing made sense to us. Whereas when I originally watched it, um, it it felt like there were bits missing. And I know I've read the books and everything as well, but like the the way they the the actual story that they did through the movies, I believe, was the right thing to do. All the bits they missed out was irrelevant to the main story anyway. So all of that was good. But when I originally saw it, I felt like there was bits missing. Like why did they just chop that there? Like, you know what I mean? I felt like that. And then when I went and saw the all of the all of the extended 4 hour versions, I felt so satisfied at the end. I felt like they're the
all,
perfect movies to have the huge, really long versions. For me, anyway. That's
all I'll say is the opening of the Fellowship of the Ring after the prologue with
Mhm.
the whole history of the ring and that, and in the theatrical cut, it suddenly goes the Shire present day or whatever, and then it sort of pans down. You see a nice sunny field. You see Frodo, and it comes out the Fellowship of the Ring, and then all the music plays, and you hear Gandalf humming coming along, and it's like you're late and all that scene. To me, that's perfect, and it isn't doesn't work the director's cut where you've got Bilbo running around trying to plan his party and then doing a voiceover and that. But
okay.
to me, it was more sort of like I don't know, nicer that whole opening of like a sleepy meadow, and oh my
Yeah,
god, Gandalf's here,
I,
and you're sort of thrown into it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, like yeah, they could have. Yeah, that's probably yeah. Maybe that's one bit where you could go. You know what? You don't need all of that because it
Yeah,
doesn't.
and
It
you've got
doesn't
an
add.
exposition over the top, and you don't have any exposition later on with a voiceover from Bilbo anywhere else.
Uh,
It, it's just tonally different from the rest of the film, and
yeah.
I don't like that for that reason. And I don't think there's really any other bits in the Fellowship of the Ring that I can't think of what bits are extended in the Fellowship of the Ring actually,
The,
other than that.
there's just. I think there were just a lot of little bits, like only extended by another 30 seconds, or I'm trying to think where Boromir starts going a bit mad. Oh, I can't remember now. But there are. I think it's all just extra little bits, and which for me really made the difference. Like I didn't feel like they've cut that a bit soon, or you know what I mean. Like, or what was the point in that bit, or you know.
Well, I've fight because I've replaced my I had the Blu-ray extended box set, I had the Blu-ray theatrical release, and now I've just got the 4K box set that
Cool.
covers all those
Oh
in
yeah.
4K. Looks amazing.
Well, yeah. Check out those widescreen sort of shots of the landscapes, because when I saw it in the cinema, those were the worst quality parts of the movies. Everything else was
So that'll
crystal
be
clear,
interesting.
and
That
then as soon as it had a wide view of like panning across the mountains or something, the quality dropped significantly. So that was the only bit I was disappointed with at the cinema. It was just about the quality, not the story.
they should be the best bits, the sweeping panoramic kind
Yeah,
of.
that's. I think that's why I
But
noticed.
you're watching it on a projector, maybe.
Yeah,
If you
everything else
watch it
was
on a 4K TV,
yeah. No, but everything was crystal. Do you know what I mean? In a cinema, you get such a good quality anyway, don't you, at cinemas? And I don't know. I think you said before that they did enhance parts of it anyway. Um,
well,
and the old
my bugbear is the DVD when they put the Blu-ray release. There was a processing error that they carried over into the Blu-ray release,
yeah,
so it had a bluey tint filter across it.
yeah,
And then the 4K, they finally correct it, and you see the colours are just so much more vibrant without that
yeah.
blue filter.
I will say though that this is about the length of movies. I took Oliver to go and see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um,
Heroes in a Half Shell.
Turtle Power, and the uh, the movie's really good. The artwork's excellent throughout. I love the style of it. It was just really good. It was, it kind of reminds you a little bit like the different styles of Into the Spider Verse. Um, and uh, but again, for it being, it should be, it's more of a kids' film. It was just a bit long, and
Right, and this is the point. You've got kids that are the TikTok generation
yeah,
that they don't want to watch films anyway or TV.
yeah,
They want short content, YouTube, TikTok,
yeah,
and then they're creating longer, self-indulgent films. It's like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I watched Avatar. That did not need to be a 3.5 hour film. It was
that
ridiculous.
I actually think about Avatar that went fairly quickly for me. I thought it was there. I mean, I could criticize a lot of it actually. Bits dragged out and like I don't know. I dragged out, but also like, why did you do that? Like that wouldn't even, I know. You could say this in every film, like that wouldn't happen in real life. But but some parts you've kind of needlessly done that just so you can, have a longer film. I think, but
Yeah.
I did feel it. It didn't drag so much for me actually. I quite enjoyed the. I thought the action was kept it pretty going. But I do understand, yeah, a bit
I
long.
enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed like the nice beaches and all that, but I just think 3.5 hours is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Come on, like stop being self-indulgent, you filmmakers, and stop doing this.
yeah.
Like I really like um the new Blade Runner film
Hmm.
is one of my. I think that is equally as good as the original. But again, I would say it would benefit by being trimmed by 20 minutes.
Yeah,
That just someone needed to be a little bit like, no, come on, you've got 20 minutes to trim off this.
yeah. Well, perhaps you can help me, right? So, the new the good films are starting back up because over Christmas for me, it's all I don't know, lovey-dovey films come out, and I'm a bit like, ugh. So I haven't been to the cinema. Well, it's been a couple of weeks. But the decent films are starting again. So I'm looking at a film called Poor Things, which seems really quirky and weird. So I'm like, oh, that's quite cool. But
Never heard of it.
um, it's about a girl. It feels like a Frankenstein's monster sort of film, but they make this girl who is, I think she's like an android or something, and it's just a silly. It feels like a silly film, but she's kind of learning to be human, I suppose. I think that's what it's about. That's what the impression I get anyway. Then there's another one called The Beekeeper with Jason Statham, so that's going to be mental action. And then
Yeah.
and then the other one that appeals to us is looks like a horror called Night Swim. Um,
Ooh.
so I mean, I'm drawn more towards Night Swim and Poor Things. Night Swim because it's a horror, and Poor Things because it looks absolutely mad, and I might enjoy that. And the Beekeeper is, like if you want action, then Jason Statham does it. Doesn't matter what he's in. Doesn't matter what he does. You can watch one's action. Watch a Jason Statham film.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, perhaps you could help me choose horror, madness, or action.
Well, I mean, I made my wife watched one of my favourite movies last night. A bit of a shout out. It's an action. It's one of my favourite movies. And I've got it in 4K. The first time they've released it in 4K, but Bloodsport. So at the moment, I'm in an
Ah,
actually kind of mood at the moment. Fucking
okay.
love Bloodsport.
Yeah.
That's a man's movie.
All right.
So go watch an action film.
Okay. I'll
Jason Statham. There you
I'll
go.
do the Beekeeper. I don't know.
Yeah, there you
Okay, then cool. I might do that tonight. I
go.
might
And
do that.
go and watch Bloodsport several times.
Remember Bloodsport? Oh, great film. Yeah. So there was something else I wanted to say. What was it? I can't remember now. It's gone. It's completely gone.
Uh,
Uh.
Well, I think
Hmm.
shall we do we right? So, do you think the Mandela effect is confused memories, or do you think it's parallel universes and realities merging?
I am on the side of confused memories. Like two, the like that whole thing about a movie does one thing, a book does another, and people getting confused between the two. I think that's what the Mandela effect is all about. The fact that thousands of people have one memory of one thing and one memory of another, just to me is indicative of our culture, of what is popular in our culture, and everyone knows what Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is. Everyone knows what these other things are, and you know you might have a particular memory of it based on the same as everyone else. They've all seen a film, they've all
Hmm.
seen an advert, they've all read a book, um, and it's just memories are memories change. Memories can you know that's the beauty about the mind. It'll if you've had a horrific something that something that is absolutely horrific, then your brain will remove it, will delete it. You know what I mean? It'll help you cope in life, and I think that affects everything else, memories, everything. So anyway, yeah, I,
Yeah, so I think I'm beginning to think about that confused memories. Hence, like that big thing. That was clearly me merging two films together.
Mm-hmm. That's good evidence of it, actually. Yeah. Okay, so next podcast then. We've got we just so everyone knows, we've written a list of things. We've got like the date love. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce it. Date love pass incident. That's a good one to look into. Because there's a lot of. I think there's some conclusions that have been. What are you doing?
Oh, sorry, I'm making lunch.
Well, there's.
Is it really loud?
But there was
I'm making Brussels sprouts.
and I'm
not making them, but I'm cooking
crunching
Brussels
them.
sprouts.
But yeah, there were a lot of theories that came of that. But then there's a conclusion to it as well, so that'll be a good one. I could tell you about my. It's a new year. It's January. And it is the beginning of the growing season for me in my garden, vegetables and stuff. So snails, I could tell you a little bit more about. I could revisit that. We could talk about zombies. What I'd really love to do about zombies is relate the zombie condition to actual conditions, actual medical conditions, and like effects of drugs and different things. So you could actually explain away the zombie condition with actual facts. I'd like to look at that. But I mean that would take a little bit of research. We could look at vampires. The whole myth of vampires, but also the again like the physical the real things that can explain away different parts of what vampires are. And I really loved the new series. It was a vampire series, Netflix, I think it was. Forgotten what it's called, but it was absolutely brilliant and it ended brilliantly for me. But anyway, we could talk about that as well. We've got other things as well, like the science of brainwashing, preparing for an apocalypse, creating a community in apocalypse, all those kinds of things, the meaning of life. We've got loads of stuff. But yeah, is there anything, what do you want to do in the next podcast?
Whatever you tell me to do.
All right, cool. We'll see what feedback we get from everyone as well. Let us know.
There was one that I was interested in. Like, I make you watch like an old episode of Doctor Who that I choose, and we get your reaction to it, or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I mean, you were doing. We started by doing that, didn't we? With Twin Peaks. I tell you what, I would love to do.
You couldn't persevere with that, could you?
I don't know. I'm still going to try. I keep saying I'm going to try. I'm going to keep going. But what I'd love to do as well, Kev, is I don't know if you've ever watched any reaction videos, but as you know,
I like those.
Well, as you know, I'm into heavy metal and stuff, and I'm always doing like new playlists for like new songs. Every week I'm checking out new music and I add them to my playlist. And I'd love to start doing reaction videos with you, but we'd have to have a setup for that. Because it would have to be videoed. We can't just chat about it. It's not really you don't capture the moment in that day. But there's so many great songs that I'd love you to listen to. Since you're not really into rock and metal, really, it would be great to get your reactions to certain things.
I used to listen to Enya.
Yes, can you imagine? Oh, that would be my reaction. That
too loud.
No,
too loud.
It's too loud. But there are some.
Back to the Future. It's too damn loud.
Yeah. Well, there's some amazing music, but not just amazing music. It's the videos that go along with it as well that I think would be great to get your reactions to. So we'll look at that as well. Whatever you're listening to us on, try and give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to hear from us, what we want to chat about. Let us know if it's a good idea to do reaction videos, and we'll see what we can do. We're past the 21st episode now. We're in the big leagues.
Well, we've made it.
We've made it.
We get rich.
So you've been listening to Nerds Talk. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Audible, Overcast, YouTube, Rumble. You can find my stuff at stephensweeney.co.uk and check out my comic book at bringcasefiles.com. I've got a new song coming out. My New Year's resolution for this year was to bring a new song out every single month. So I've got a new song coming out on the 26th of January. It's called Divide. and it's a little bit of a look at me songs have a bit of a theme at the moment. It's conspiracy theory type stuff. It's about patterns, recognizing patterns, and Divide is about how we are all divided at the moment. I don't think in reality we are. I think the majority of us are not divided, actually getting on okay. But the perception that you get from news and all of that is anyway. I don't want to go too deep into that, but that's kind of what it's about. Kevin.
kevingroverfiction.co.uk. I've got 3 books out on Amazon to check out. Currently finishing or trying to finish off my next novel, which is a straight horror novel. And don't forget, we've got our Twitter page. Was it Talking Nerds Talk Rubbish?
Nerds.
At Nerds Talk Rubbish. That was it, wasn't it?
No, it's Nerds Talk Crap on Twitter because we couldn't get rubbish.
Oh yeah, that's right. At Nerds Talk Crap on X.
Yep. It's the yellow icon for Nerds Talk. Nerds Talk Crap.
So
Nerds Talk Crap.
Leave your comments for us.
Oh yes. Cool. All right then. Right. We'll see you next time.